Yasharaj revived? Pandaria just got a massive update. Oh my god, are they revamping Pandaria before everything else? Let's see what Dor the Truth Teller has to say.
Blizzard just released a new Pandaria book like 3 days ago, covering every single zone and giving us pretty big updates on what happened to the continent since we left back in Mop and what it's like today. Most importantly, the Mantis are back to worshipping Yasharaj, probably preparing for their next offensive. The wall has been fully repaired, the Peak of Serenity has been abandoned, the Isle of Thunder is actually used to forge weapons to defend Azeroth by both factions. These Mogul statues are repaired, a bunch of Horn Line settlements have either been discarded or are now neutral, and most importantly, there is a hint that Lily is sailing on a new expedition, which could be a huge hint for 11.0. These are just some of the huge updates, so what is all this new information that we have to the continent of Pandaria?
Sounds interesting. Tell us, Doran.
I've been using this wallet for nearly 3 months now, and it is amazing. Cash
Get
goes
your
in
wallet,
here,
boys.
cards go like this, and you even got this little tracker that you can find your wallet if you lose it through the app. Wow. There's so many styles you can choose from. You got premium leather, you got carbon fiber, aluminum, and they also have key cases that can also be fitted with the tracker so that you don't lose your keys as well. Best of all, these wallets are super affordable, and they're even more affordable if you use my code DORAN.
Use code DORAN.
And you can get up to 25% off your wallets or key cases. So check out Extra.
I have actually made pretty much this exact video nearly a year back, and at the time, most of it was kinda pieced together from quest text, NPC conversations, speculations across the years that we had gotten, but now, Blizzard has released a brand new book called Exploring Azeroth Pandaria, giving us a complete update to Pandaria up to the current date. It isn't 100% certain what the date is, but let's just say it is the most official and up-to-date information that we currently have on Pandaria, as it has been over 10 years since we had visited the continent.
Damn, has it been that long?
It is at least the time of the Dragon Isles since
I don't know what, nothing makes me feel older than hearing how expansions for WoW were however many years ago. With 10 years? Pandaria was 10 years ago? Holy shit. That's crazy. Hey, by the way, we also got hints, don't forget, from the trading post and all kinds of stuff about boots. Oh no, the boots were Northrend. Yeah, fuck me. Never mind.
Travels from the Dragon Isles to Pandaria.
But did they upgrade the Tuskar models to the new ones? I wonder.
Overall, the information is not exactly like mind-boggling. I mean, Pandaria hasn't completely changed, but we do have some really interesting plot points and conclusions to storylines you might remember that you might have actually played through a decade ago. So let's start off with all the info. First things first, we've actually been to Pandaria on 2 occasions, as there was a pretty significant Burning Legion invasion, and there was also some old god influence there lately as well, and some of those consequences are
Vanilla's
here
20-year anniversary.
Some areas have been completely restored, that were destroyed in these invasions, some are completely abandoned and no longer really exist. So, starting off with the Krasserang Wilds. We discover a Tuskar here that sailed from the Dragon Isles to Pandaria. As a jungle, it is still dangerous up to this day, but nowhere near what it was back in the day when Pandaria was in the midst of chaos. We know that the Meditation Point, the Horde base, is now friendly to both factions. We know that the Sentinel
Garrosh should be rolling in his grave.
Base camp, the Night Elven outpost, has been abandoned completely and has now just kind of returned back to nature. However, the Tauren, on the other hand, of the Thundercleft settlement remain here up to this day, and they have been healing the lands ever since. When it comes to Jade Forest, all of you guys know it from that famous cinematic. The Garrosh Point, the major Horde landing site, has been completely dismantled and is no longer there. We also know that the famous statue that was destroyed by the Horde in the Alliance War has still not actually been restored. The restoration work is in process, but as far as we know, it is several years away from actually being completed, so it is still quite a bit of work in progress. The ruins of the Terrace of Ten Thunders are peaceful, and the Sourrock of the Windward Isles have been driven away. In regards to the Timeless Isle, we
this is actually like a substantial amount of changes to Pandaria. What the hell? I didn't realize all this stuff was going on. And if you're asking if this is in the game right now, I don't know if you go to Pandaria right now where he's finding this on the PTR or what, but there's the new book that came out and it revealed a bunch of storylines about Pandaria and everything that's going on there.
Have all that much info, but we know that Ordos is apparently
this might not be in the game.
Alive,
he's probably pulling the stuff from the new story that got released last week.
Deadweights have, in my opinion, the most interesting new information and some possible foreshadowing as well. Most importantly, the Mantis are still a thing and they're worshipping Yasharaj, which as we said, I think is a pretty big hint for the next WoW expansion, as we have all this old god info foreshadowed. We know that they have certainly calmed down, they're still dangerous, but the wall hasn't been attacked in a large force in a long time. The damage section of the wall has been completely fixed, as well as that gate. Since the defeat of the Shah, most of the corruption has retreated, and while some of the trees have been saved, a lot of the Manta trees are still just skeletons and completely ruined, so the corruption isn't completely gone. However, in my opinion, this seems like a hint that the Mantid are worshipping Galsharash and just building up power. And
don't forget, the Mantid are being a lot of all the bug stuff and Azul Narub. There's a lot of hints about that stuff on the trading posts coming back to relevance somehow. We've seen a lot of dwarf stuff and a lot of Azul Narub and Mantid stuff, so it's interesting. And I'm sure they're going to be relevant. It's only a matter of
time before they get recruited back for a new offensive. Especially since the recent lore implications show that
gods and Mantids go hand in hand.
Be killed, so Galsharash might actually be returning. But regardless, right next we have the town log steps, and we have a bunch of updates to this zone as well. The Yongle continue to rule the zone, and while we no longer are at
playable
open war
Yongle,
with them,
maybe eventually,
everyone is wary of their presence. The logging outpost is still used by the Shadowpan to monitor the Yongle. The Mantid are still present in the zone, but mainly quiet and not as aggressive. But overall, the Yongle still remain as pretty dangerous enemies. On the other hand, we have the most dangerous zone of the continent, the Dark Isle of Thunder, and it is a lot calmer than it was in the past. I mean, first of all, the Zandalari and the Mogu have been defeated, of course, but despite no enemies, the Kirintor and the Sun Reavers still maintain a pretty significant presence, albeit with a truce, and their conflict has kinda turned into friendly competition. The Thunder Forge is used by both factions to
that makes sense. World of Friendcraft, that's what we play these days. Everyone hold hands.
To create weapons for the overall defense of Azeroth for both the arsenal of the Horde and the Alliance. Next down the line, we have some really interesting things with the Kun-Lai Summit. After the Siege of Orgrimmar, the monks and the brewmasters of Pandaria led a pretty big charge into the zone to completely drive out the Yongle out of this territory, and they have now been contained mainly to the town long steps, and as far as we know, the lands have significantly
purging the
healed
Yongle
since then, with many farmers returning back to their homes. The gate of the August Celestials is closed, and as you may know, the Peak of Serenity has been destroyed a few years back in the Burning Legion invasion, and now, as far as we know, it has been completely abandoned. There hasn't been any restoration efforts or any indications that it might happen soon. Near the shore, the Zandalari have been removed, obviously, but we know that the remains of the invasion can still be found everywhere. The scars are still on the land, and we learned that a new brewery has been constructed back where the Zandalari maintained their presence.
There we go. That's what matters. The new brewery. I mean, we needed this. This is what needed to happen. New brewery. Good job, Blizzard.
The Path of Conquerors is still haunted by the unquiet spirits. Now, to the most iconic zone, the Whale of Eternal Blossoms. So, the entire zone has healed significantly, but it is...
Did they really rebuild the statue in the front?
Glory after all the damage that has been done to it. However, the Golden Pagoda has been completely rebuilt to look exactly like it did in the past, and also the most notable two Mogu statues have been completely repaired as the most iconic signs of the zone. The Shrine of Two Moons and the Shrine of Seven Stars, the former Horde and Alliance hubs, are still active to this day, albeit of course the factions don't maintain the same presence, but many travelers visit them. Additionally, the Mogushan Palace maintains a significant shadow.
By the way, I feel like these were underrated. The amount of detail that went into these two little hub faction cities, if you remember, like I remember looking at the walls of these places and thinking, holy shit, man, something about this place just feels extra uprest. Pandaria overall was underrated to me, but these faction hubs especially were too. Man, so much better than Oribos.
Additionally, the Mogushan Palace maintains a significant Shadowpen presence in the case the Mogu ever decide to return in large numbers. The Lore Walkers have been quite active, staying in touch with the Explorers League, Kirin, and they're very eager to connect with the wider world. Next on the line, we have, of course, the Pandarian starter zone, the Wandering Isles. Not all that much has actually happened. We know that the wound on the Giant Turtle has long since healed, and that the Temple of the Five Dawns is quieter now than it was back during Legion, and the monks have mainly returned back to their home temples. The Valley of the Four Winds has also seen some pretty big changes. The Stormstar Brewery has been set right, the stone foundations of the Imperial Granary still remain damaged from the Fell invasion, so the attack is still apparent. Additionally, the pools of purity have been restored completely to the pre-Legion invasion because, as you may remember, the Legion attempted to desecrate them. Overall, though, the Horde and the Alliance presence still remains, although as a symbolic amount across the continent, sort of similar to Northern with a skeleton crew to maintain the presence. The downscale of the forces is of course logical. I mean, we're dealing with other things. And also, you can notice this because a lot of the bases have closed down due to being hard and probably expensive to maintain. Pandaren have across the years connected with more of the rest of the world, and Pandaria has also significantly opened up to trade as, of course, the continent is much more peaceful. Interesting enough though, despite us...
I'm trying to think of like what this has to do. You guys remember the guy that made the roadmap of all the next expansions and how each expansion was going to kind of, revert back to one of the themes of the older ones? Isn't there a whole like Shah expansion old god thing being predicted? I wonder if Blizzard's revamps to this is because we're going to go back to Pandaria in some way. I don't imagine them doing this stuff without a reason for it.
Calming down everything.
Probably gonna go back.
Lying threats still exist. I mean, it's not exactly all just
not for an entire expansion, but for parts at least.
Not only are the Yongols still a pretty big threat, but a lot of this book reads as foreshadowing that the Mantid may become trouble soon. And additionally, with all the
they are probably the main key. The Mantid and Azul Narub, I think, is going to come back into relevance because of all the old god stuff that we've seen hinted at. I definitely think that those two are going to play big roles, along with the dwarves, who could be digging and find Azul Narub, some kind of weird shit like that, or a new part of it, and releasing more old god stuff.
In the presence of Titan facilities on Pandaria, I'm expecting we could be returning to the continent quite soon.
Overall, were cool.
The book itself is really nothing all that crazy. It foreshadows Lily going to an expedition, which could indicate the new continent we could potentially be seeing in 11.0. However, most of these updates are minor and very few are actually just groundbreaking. This was really just a way to immerse yourself in Pandaria's storyline back again, but let's see, most of the predictions I made for the continent in the previous video on this topic are pretty much still spot on. Thank you for watching. Check out these 3 new allied races that actually have evidence to be added soon, and check out my video on ancient Greek colonies in Spain by also clicking on the screen as well. See you next time.
Nice. No, you know what? Like, part of what he said there at the end, I don't totally agree with. I really think that they wouldn't be doing this without. I don't think it's just for storyline and maybe you go back and re-experience. No, I think Pandaria is going to become relevant again in some way, especially because of all the bug shit that we're seeing, and we know there's a lot of bug stuff going on over there. I definitely think we're going to see more of that. Whether or not it's, next expansion or one after that, who knows? But going back to Pandaria, I'd take it. Underrated continent. Underrated.